Hey, my name is Glenda, and I am here for the EDUC 639 interview, and I have got Mr. Ian Smee, which is the IT instructor here at Southeastern Community College, and he's going to be who I interview. So, for starters, I'm going to ask you a few interview questions, and then you answer them to the best you like it goes for you. How many years have you been a professional in the field?
Well, I started off teaching here about 3 years ago, but before that, I spent 3 years in a customer service call center with a bank. So
Okay.
that kind of helped me learn how to deal with people in a friendly
I'm
manner.
sure. Because you get pretty tough people sometimes, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Wow. Okay. So, can you describe your specific roles in your profession as a professional?
Well, right now, I'm an IT instructor, one of the IT instructors here. So basically, it involves keeping current on everything, making sure the students are assets in the positions they feel after they graduate from here, or they know the material they need to go on a degree.
Plus keeping up with the newest trend
Definitely.
and anything educational and electronical, I'm sure.
Right. So I mean that that involves just research. Sometimes students will tell me about something I've never heard of,
Right.
and then I research it, and sometimes they don't get the whole story, but somans
It's something that you can
yeah.
utilize.
Mhm.
That's good. Okay, so can you describe how you identify current trends and issues in the field?
Well, going off of kind of what I just said, with the research, every once in a while on the TV news, you'll see some new technology.
Yes.
Usually it's internet research, sometimes checking scholarly journals they'll do research, and that real stuff that hasn't been mainstream
Right.
yet. So I would just say research.
With all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what trends are likely to have a large impact on teaching, learning, and education next several years? What do you see the trend of CERT has an impact in your teaching?
I'll say anything usually money. One thing with what we're doing now is we're thinking about using open source material so we can save money for the students.
Right.
So that's a big thing.
Well, in the open source, they can have a part in the designing, right? I mean, is that what you're talking about?
Well, they can, but it's usually it's material that people have researched and made textbooks themselves,
Oh, okay.
but they don't charge for it,
Oh,
and
wow.
they openly share it.
Oh, okay.
So I don't truly understand how the funds. I guess they're donations that help them maintain the material.
Wow, that's not so.
But the one thing you have to worry about is it's not guaranteed to be accurate.
Okay.
So I'm sure as we come up, or if there might be one I don't know about, there might be an accrediting body that verifies accuracy of the information.
Well, that's neat.
That's something we definitely will have to face, and also just ADA compliance.
Yeah, that's a big issue for all of us here.
And that also hits on open source information, because one way you can go open source is just going to internet articles. Yeah. But if you article to your course in Moodle, you have to verify it's ADA compliant.
So then you get that the other chance of having to figure out what to do for that.
Right.
Wow, that's neat. Okay, so how do you see the trends impacting the decisions you make and what you do?
Well, speaking about ADA compliance, you can find material, but if you don't know that it's ADA compliant, you can't use it. Another thing, kind of hitting on what I've discussed, is saving students money. There's a lot of material it's a wealth of knowledge, but if it costs too much, you don't need to, you don't need to break your students, because
Right.
you're not gonna have any students if it's too costly. And that's about all.
Okay. Hey.
I draw a blank.
Yeah, well, no, when you look at anything, even like for their technology stuff, you have to be careful with that too, because I know technology, like the webcam and price, anything like that, you have to be very careful because it's costly for them as well.
Right.
Always looking for a deal.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. The one thing I was going to discuss that I went blank on is cloud computing.
Yes.
Because once we just had textbooks, and now most things come with access code, so you have to. And most students, I won't say they learn more with access codes, but they're more intrigued when they're in it.
Right.
And I've also heard. I got an email just recently that one publishing company is creating an avenue that students can actually access from Netflix.
Oh.
They can take a course. Use
Goodness, neat. Everybody's watching movies on Netflix. Might as well get it where it's an education tool, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's neat. I didn't know that. Okay, it says, what emerging technologies are likely to have a large impact on your teaching and learning and education over the years? What do you see?
The biggest thing, and I've actually had students discuss this with me, is virtual reality. Now I don't know how soon we would get it based being on a rural community college, but because it's expensive. But online classes, virtual reality, it would more closely bridge the gap between the thorough education experience you get in the classroom versus what's given online. because it takes a special student to be diligent enough to just accept assignments, do their own research.
Right.
Where if you had a virtual reality class time meeting where it was actually as if you were in the classroom,
Right.
and especially use your virtual hands to complete things.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Wow. We're going fastly with a lot of stuff, and that can be. But there again, we have the ADA stuff that we got to make. We're going
right,
through.
and I'm glad you said another thing. How do you make virtual reality ADA compliant?
Yeah, because you don't have the access. You're just using the tool. You're not really the one creating it, so you don't have no way to. I guess they would have to do a certificate that would say that they would be ADA.
Right, because if somebody's blind, how would they do virtual reality?
Yeah,
Unless there was sensation, I don't know.
It's weird because I was telling them in one of our discussions that I have a little friend that's blind, and I went with her to a writers conference, and it was amazing to watch her use her phone, her tablet, and she knew everything that was going on. She kept notes during the conference. So, I mean, technology is making it available for anybody to do anything.
Right.
It's really come a long way. Okay, so what factors do you consider when deciding to adopt emergency for your organization? And I think you already said one of that. Yes,
Right.
That's the biggest thing. And ADA compliant now is another thing.
Right.
So,
I mean, without discussing what we've already mentioned, one thing is just ease of access, but intuitiveness.
Mhm.
There's a lot of study guides that have a wealth of information, but it's kind of like just a reference. They don't actually teach the information.
Right.
And unfortunately, study guides are a lot cheaper than traditional textbooks.
Right.
So you kind of have to bridge the gap where if you do order a study guide student instead of a traditional, then you've got to actually bridge that gap for them.
Right. Right.
And one other thing is study guides might not be ADA compliant.
Well, and I think a lot, as far as me, that has been helpful in my years of going and doing my degree is a lot of the teachers putting videos in their classes. That way, if a student has or capability of understanding, they have the access to go back and re-listen to it.
Right.
And I just really feel like that brings the more interaction into the classroom online as well.
Right.
So I think that's a lot we need to have going too, is have more interaction with the students and the faculty when it's online. So there's a lot of tools now that's coming out to make that accessible. So what factors do you consider? I think I already talked that one. What challenges are likely to have a large impact on teaching, learning, or education over the next several years? So it's kind of the same thing. What are your challenges now?
Well, the one thing based on recent events is safety.
Mm-hmm.
One time when you came to think about safety, you just think about learning. But now, even here, a few months ago, you have to worry about safety of the students, and you can't really adopt that into your teaching methods, but it's just something to be concerned about.
Right.
Regarding teaching methods, with a community college, especially, you have to balance rigor versus retention.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to realize that students that come here are not always general students, and they have to balance their work life, home life, plus their education.
Yes. Yeah.
So we don't want to make it so hard that we can't accommodate all students.
Right.
But yet we don't want to make it so easy that everybody comes, and then all the students that are not successful.
Exactly.
So
that's a good thing to put out there because that has happened. Okay, so describe legal issues that are concerning your job.
The biggest thing, well, I wasn't biggest, but one of the most recent things I've dealt with is plagiarism. And it woke me up to the fact that when I introduced the idea of plagiarism in one of the first days of class, I make sure they understand what plagiarism is.
Right.
Because I actually had a student that I basically sent him a message, it was an online student, saying, I basically Googled what you submitted, and I found all bold. So, and he told me, and this was there, I did not copy and paste it, so I did not plagiarize. So basically, he typed out word for word what it said, but he did not. He thought because he did not copy, press copy and then press paste, it wasn't plagiarism.
Right. He thought he could still take it and type it up, and it was his work because he typed it. Yeah, we need an understanding because I think a lot of times that's one thing that gets kind of fall behind on because when you get to universities, it's even a bigger thing there. So it's something that we need to teach here in the community college. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about
that. At the professional level, we teach a lot of things that people can abuse. But because when you're a professional, an IT professional, people rely on you. So if, for example, if somebody would give you that computer for you to fix, based on knowledge that we teach our students, they could actually plant an application that's going to monitor and steal their information. Yeah. Based on the knowledge that we teach them, they should be able to do that. However, we need to make sure they know, and we can, that they don't do that because though I guess that technically is illegal. There's a lot of things in the computer world that you can do that are not illegal,
Right.
but they're definitely not ethical.
Right, and then it can always come back to bite the legal part of it if
Right.
anything was captured.
Mhm.
Good news, good part there. Okay, so in considering current trends and issues in distance education and technology, what issues do you see Christians face?
I think sometimes with technology in general, it's easy to make technology your God because it gives you, with internet, you once had to search and research to find answers. Now you type it in Google and you get it. So I see people, in your God, and I think it's easy to manage that.
I would understand that.
A lot of my students play video games constantly. So there's no time for anything, even if you were to state that you're a Christian, there's no time to have fruits to what you're saying versus just saying you're a Christian. So while I think, I consider technology like money. It's a blessing when it's used right, but it can also become evil. Yes.
It can be in many ways. So that's a one. And I think too that we can, as far as Christians too, we can get things that's not really true. You can watch stuff and be led in a way to where maybe that person thinks they're preaching the word, but not really, like false gods. I mean, false prophets. I guess the way you say it, because there's so much out there. You got to make sure what you're getting is real.
Right, and then adding on to that, it's easy. Some addicted to pornography.
Yeah.
Where there was once a day where you had to actually store and to actually get it. Now you just Google it.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
There's not as much thought. It's so easy to do that now. There's not as much thought required.
Right. Satan has a lot of tools out there that he can use to detour us in another way. Okay, so what advice do you give for a future professional entering the distance education or educational technology field? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think the best thing I could say is with my online classes, I think it's easy to see a student as a number. You have so many in a class, you're just trying to grade their assignments, and you don't really see them as a person. I mean, I hate to say that, but when you get busy during the week, you just see them as a number and you grade it.
Yeah.
But I think as much as possible, because I know in larger classes it's very difficult, as much as possible, do your best to make it right for the student. Whether you upload a video every so often, so that they don't see you as a number as well.
Right.
So if they see you being a human being instead of some grading machine, then
that's true.
Then they might care more. I don't know, but the reason I'm saying this is because there's a lot of students that I have seated and online, and the students I have seated who I have a relationship with, they do a lot better in online than the people that I've never met. They're just strictly in the online.
Right, and I think we need relationships is what we need, even though they're online classes. Well, I want to thank you for taking this time with me, and I enjoyed the answers and the questions, and I look forward to the rest of this class. Thanks a lot for helping me out.
No problem. You're welcome.